In the still corridors of the Apostolic Palace, beneath centuries-old frescoes and beside echoes of tradition, a document was born, quietly yet destined to shake the world. It wasn't read from the pulpit. It didn't arrive with trumpets. It didn't even make headlines, at first. But when its contents started to leak, when a single phrase was whispered across bishops' WhatsApp groups, when seminaries in Poland and parish halls in Brazil began to debate it, the Church realized, this is not just another Vatican guideline. This could be a turning point. The first indication came not from the document itself, but from what the Vatican didn't say. There was no major press briefing. No cardinal-led roundtable. Just a short, 2-sentence bulletin posted online at 7:52 p.m. The Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith has concluded its 2-year study on structural synodality and global ecclesial participation. A formal exhortation titled Praedicate Communionem, proclaiming communion, will be published within days. It would have ended there. But less than 24 hours later, a high-res scan of the draft began circulating among theologians and journalists. By morning, 5 words from paragraph 49 were trending on X, formerly Twitter. Decentralized authority, rooted in faith. Catholic creators, Vatican analysts, even ex-seminarians were scrambling to interpret it. Is the Pope giving up power? Is this Vatican III without the Council? This could split the Church. Theologians from Oxford to Nairobi were live-streaming their initial takes. And among them, one question kept emerging. What does this document actually mean, and what does it risk? To understand what's happening now, we need to go back to what led us here. Over 2 years, under the pontificate of Pope Francis, and now Pope Leo XIV, the Church undertook the most ambitious listening process in modern ecclesial history. Over 20 million Catholics participated globally. Laypeople, religious, bishops, and marginalized voices were all invited to speak. Issues of governance, participation, evangelization, inclusion, and identity were brought to the table. Out of that synodal journey came hundreds of local documents, distilled into national syntheses, and finally into one final report. And now, this Vatican document, Praedicate Communionem, is being framed as the official implementation phase. Not suggestions, not reflections, but proposed changes. Structural, legal, spiritual. We are not only being invited to walk together, we are being instructed to decide together. That's a very different kind of church. This is not the first time the Church has shaken its own foundations. In 1965, Vatican II changed the Church's relationship with the modern world. In the 1980s, canon law was rewritten. Under Pope Francis, liturgical translations were entrusted more to local bishops. But this document appears to go further. In respect for the sensus fidelium and the collegial discernment of bishops gathered regionally, no single ecclesiastical authority, including the Holy Father, shall unilaterally overturn duly ratified decisions that remain within the bounds of doctrine. Let that sink in. No single authority, not even the Pope. Cardinal Orlandi, Rome. This is a profound call to maturity. We are not dismantling authority. We are deepening communion. Bishop Nwachukwu, Nigeria. I fear we are replacing spiritual fatherhood with theological democracy. Senior Helena Ocampo, Philippines. For the first time, I feel seen. Not just heard, but seen. Father William Adams, U.S. traditionalist priest. This feels like the birth of a council without the clarity of one. Let us not be afraid of walking with the Holy Spirit. Structures may change, but the truth remains. Mercy does not fear the unknown. He didn't directly mention the document. But to many it sounded like a quiet blessing over what was to come. The Holy Father invites prayer, not panic. Discernment, not division. Yet behind closed doors, many were already alarmed. In Poland, bishops warned this might weaken the link between Rome and the faithful. In Germany, progressive theologians said, "Finally, we can move ahead." In Kenya, bishops asked, "What about unity in teaching? I want more say in my parish. But I don't want the church to become a committee." This captures the paradox. The church wants to include more voices, but risks becoming fragmented in doing so. According to internal drafts, by March 2026, each episcopal conference will be required to submit a synodal restructuring plan. By Easter 2027, Vatican oversight of local governance will be streamlined, no longer requiring Rome's approval for dozens of administrative and liturgical decisions. In short, more power to local bishops, more voice for local communities, and Rome quietly stepping back. But here's the problem. The Church isn't a single culture. It's not even a single style of worship. What brings unity is shared doctrine and shared trust in Rome. This document, while noble in intention, could create doctrinal echo chambers. What's approved in Germany may be rejected in Uganda. What's celebrated in Brazil may be questioned in Poland. Will the papacy be able to hold the line? Or is this the beginning of a more pluralistic, and therefore more unpredictable, church? For now, the document is being read, studied, translated, debated. But buried deep in paragraph 83 is a clause, one that touches the papacy itself. And if interpreted a certain way, it could be seen as the most radical shift since Vatican I declared papal infallibility in 1870. What does it say? And why are some insiders calling it the hidden earthquake? For centuries, the Pope was considered the final voice, the theological anchor of the Catholic Church. No one could override him. Not bishops. Not cardinals. Not councils. Until now, buried in the folds of Praedicate Communionem, paragraph 83 contains a single clause that Vatican insiders say could change the structure of the Church forever. And it reads, "In respect for regional discernment and doctrinal continuity, local episcopal decisions, when ratified through synodal consensus, shall be considered binding and not subject to unilateral reversal by any singular office." To the average reader, that might seem procedural. But in church governance? It's an earthquake. 1870, Vatican I defines papal infallibility. 1965, Vatican II introduces collegiality, urging collaboration among bishops. 2025, Praedicate Communionem appears to recalibrate the line between papal supremacy and synodal subsidiarity. So what's really happening? Let's unpack the power shift behind the headlines. The Catholic Church has long operated under a hierarchical model. Pope at the top, cardinals and curia just below, bishops guiding dioceses, priests guiding parishes, lay faithful at the base. This structure provided clarity, unity, consistency across 1.3 billion Catholics. But it also created challenges. Many local churches, especially in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, felt that Rome didn't always understand their context. "What works in the Netherlands," said one African bishop, "doesn't always work in Nairobi." One of the synod's loudest cries? "We want participation, not just consultation." That meant laypeople with voting rights, women involved in governance, bishops not merely following Rome, but co-shaping it. And this document responds by elevating what it calls regional discernment. Conservative Cardinal, Italy. The Pope's role is not managerial. It is petrine. Christ did not found a democracy. Progressive Bishop, Germany. Authority flows best when it is shared, not centralized. African Archbishop. Our voice matters. not only when it agrees with Rome, but especially when it doesn't. The idea isn't to strip the Pope of his voice, but it is to say, he is no longer the only voice. Dr. Lucia Santini, canon lawyer at Pontifical Lateran University. Technically, this does not contradict papal infallibility. That remains protected. But practically, it limits his intervention in areas once governed solely by Rome. It's like saying, the Pope still drives the ship, but now the crew has a say in the destination. Several insiders speaking anonymously expressed concern. One curial official said, "This will slow everything down. You'll have bishops making conflicting decisions, each saying, 'The Spirit guided us.' Who will be the referee?" Another asked. "What if one region blesses same-sex unions and another calls it heresy? Will the Pope be allowed to intervene?" In Spain, finally, the Church is listening. It's not just top-down anymore. In Nigeria, I'm worried. This could be used to push agendas that don't reflect our values. In the US, I love my parish, but I trust Rome more than a local vote. So, what exactly is synodality? It's not just a buzzword. It's a theological principle rooted in the early Church. Walking together, listening to the Spirit, and making decisions as a body, not just from above. Synodality doesn't mean democracy. But it does mean discernment by many, not just one. In the Amazon Synod, 2019, local bishops requested married priests in remote areas, greater roles for women, liturgical adaptations rooted in indigenous cultures. Rome welcomed the conversation, but made no immediate changes. Now, under Praedicate Communionem, if those bishops reconvene and decide again, Rome may no longer stop it. Because the document says, local realities, when prayed through and approved in unity, carry authentic ecclesial weight. This could be the most exciting or the most destabilizing thing to happen to church governance in 50 years. It all depends on how it's received. Historically, the Pope held the keys of Peter, the ultimate authority on faith and morals. This document doesn't take away the keys. It shares one. And for many Catholics who've long felt excluded, that key is hope. But for others, it's a dangerous gamble. A cardinal opposed to the reform warns, if each region acts independently, we risk becoming a federation, not a church. The body of Christ must speak with one voice, not 50. To which another responds, but that voice should include the lungs of Africa, the heart of Asia, the soul of Latin America, not only the tongue of Rome. This is not decentralization for its own sake. It's a spiritual decentralization, based on trust in the Spirit moving through the people of God. One image from this week has gone viral. Pope Leo XIV, kneeling silently for over 30 minutes in the empty Basilica of St. John Lateran, the Cathedral of the Bishop of Rome. No words. No cameras. Just silence. Some say he was praying for the courage to stand by the document. Others believe he was asking heaven to hold the Church together. This moment is not about politics. It's about power, yes, but a power reshaped by faith. A power that dares to listen. And the question is not just what the Pope will do next, but whether the Church is ready to follow. It began as a footnote, then grew into a sentence, and now, it's a movement echoing through cathedrals, convents, and college chapels across the world. Paragraph 97 of Praedicate Communionem may go down as the most scrutinized in Vatican history. We affirm the need for renewed integration of women and the laity into the full life, discernment, and service of the Church, including participation in governing bodies, catechetical leadership, and roles traditionally associated with ordained ministry, provided within the Limits of doctrine. One phrase sparked 1,000 headlines. Roles traditionally associated with ordained ministry. What does that mean? Could it include preaching? Could it mean the diaconate? Could it, as some fear or hope, mean priesthood? Let's unpack the wave that's now shaking the most sacred spaces of the Catholic world. For centuries, women have been the backbone of the Church. They teach catechism. They lead prayer groups. They serve as missionaries, nuns, doctors, martyrs, and mystics. But leadership roles, especially decision-making positions, have been limited. 3rd century, deaconesses assisted in baptisms and served widows. 16th century, Saint Teresa of Avila reformed religious life, but couldn't vote in councils. 1988, Pope John Paul II affirmed equal dignity but restricted sacramental roles. 2021, Pope Francis formally allowed women to be instituted as lectors and acolytes. And now, Praedicate Communionem goes further. Senior Maria Gonzalez, Mexico. We're not asking to wear vestments. We're asking to be seen as co-responsible for the Church. Lay theologian, U.S. I've taught seminarians for 20 years. I just couldn't vote on their ordination. African mother of 5. We are the Church at home. Now we must be the Church in the Council. Let's break it down. Governing bodies. Could this mean parish councils? Diocesan synods? The Roman Curia? Catechetical leadership. Many women already lead catechesis. But this affirms doctrinal teaching roles. Roles traditionally associated with ordained ministry. This is where interpretation becomes fire. Because tradition says only men can be ordained. But this phrase acknowledges a new possibility without directly breaking doctrine. A group of Catholic women and men gather in a parish center. The discussion is warm, but emotional. Young woman, theology student. I don't want a title. I want to be trusted with truth. Older deacon. This could cause more division. We need unity, not experiments. Retired nun. I've waited 50 years for this moment. Let the Spirit breathe. Not all are rejoicing. Cardinal Bianchi, fictional. The Church cannot contradict itself. Ministry must remain anchored in apostolic succession. Cardinal Oliveira, Brazil. But can we expand without contradicting? That is the question of our age. Germany, women already lead diocesan synods. India, laywomen oversee entire catechetical regions. Nigeria, nuns run major Catholic hospitals and schools. United States, women serve as parish administrators, handling daily governance. So in many ways, the Church is catching up to itself. Though Pope Leo has not spoken directly about paragraph 97 in a 2023 address to women theologians, he said, "The voice of the Spirit does not sound less divine when it comes through the lips of a woman. The Church must not only listen, she must respond." It was met with a standing ovation. Dr. Anna-Marie Jolivet, professor of ecclesiology. This is not about ordaining women. Not yet. But it's about removing the invisible walls around influence. For centuries, women were holy, but silent. Now the silence is ending. If paragraph 97 focused on women, the next paragraph expands the scope. The laity, by baptism, possess authentic charisms of leadership, evangelization, and theological discernment, and should be entrusted with roles of governance in accordance with pastoral need. In plain terms, laypeople are no longer just volunteers. They are now recognized as leaders. Laypeople serving as tribunal judges. Lay pastoral coordinators leading entire parish systems. Lay theologians advising bishops. Lay missionaries heading diocesan outreach in remote regions. This is not fantasy. It's already happening. What this document does is bless it publicly. And what that means is global. Not everyone agrees. A traditionalist movement known as Custodes Veritatis released a video titled, "Lay Control Equals Church Collapse?" In it they warn, the more we let go of hierarchy, the more we invite confusion. This is not renewal. This is erosion. The video went viral. But so did the counter-response. Erosion of what? Power? Or exclusion? You are not the future of the Church. You are the Church now. The Holy Spirit does not wait for age, title, or robes. He moves where hearts are open. The document doesn't demand uniformity. It doesn't mandate radical change. But it opens the door. And once a door like that is opened, the wind of the Spirit is very hard to stop. We're living through a chapter that future church historians will write about for generations. Whether it becomes a story of rupture or renewal will depend not just on Rome, but on how the people of God walk through the doorway now open before them. Every generation faces a turning point, an intersection of memory and momentum. For the Catholic Church, this document may be that moment. Praedicate Communionem has drawn lines. Not in stone, but in spirit. And now, Catholics worldwide are asking, are we watching the Church evolve, or witnessing the birth of something entirely new? From Manila to Madrid, Lagos to Los Angeles, discussions are erupting. Parishes are organizing forums. Seminaries are rewriting curriculum. And social media is ablaze. Some say this is Vatican III in everything but name. Others say it's the fruit of the Spirit, long overdue. And a few still whisper, this will break us. Reporter: do you believe the Pope expected this much reaction? Insider: he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not dismantling the Church. He's recentering it. Recentering it around what? Around people. Around discernment. Around Christ and community. The Church, in fidelity to the deposit of faith, must continually listen to the movements of the Spirit through the signs of the times. Renewal is not rupture. Participation is not rebellion. Communion is not conformity. This one paragraph may be the most pastoral and poetic ever seen in an official Vatican document. It feels less like legislation, and more like a letter of trust. Bishop Hans Sujin: we do not abandon tradition by listening to today's needs. That is how tradition lives. Bishop Thomas Ees: Christ's authority was never domination, it was always invitation. 313 AD, Edict of Milan, Christianity legalized. 1054 AD, the Great Schism, East and West divide. 1517 AD, the Reformation, seeds of Protestantism. 1965 AD, Vatican II closes, Church embraces modernity. 2025 AD, Praedicate Communionem, the Church redefines participation. Each time, the Church was tested. Each time, it either fractured, or was forged anew. Pope Leo XIV is not young. He knows this document will outlive him. He is not governing for applause, but for the eternal Church. In his homily the Sunday after the release, he said, the question is not whether this will divide us. The question is whether our faith is strong enough to grow through it. A laywoman reads the document aloud. She pauses at the line. To discern is not to doubt. It is to honor the Spirit. People nod. Some tear up. A man whispers, it's like they finally believe we matter. At the same time, others express deep concern. Father Gregory Tan, FSSB: we are not against renewal, but we fear losing the transcendent. The sacred must not be sacrificed for the sake of popularity. This document does not mention the Latin Mass, but many traditional communities fear being left behind. Yet even here, there are voices of bridge building. Senior Clotilde, Benedictine nun. We cannot hold on to incense and lose compassion. The true sacred is always both reverent and responsive. Brazilian teen. This makes me want to stay Catholic. French seminarian. It's confusing. But maybe the early church was confusing too. Filipina nurse. We've waited so long to be seen. Now we need to be trusted. Do not be afraid of a church in motion. You were baptized not to be statues but pilgrims. This is the soul of Praedicate Communionem. Not radicalism. Not rupture. But pilgrimage. A church in motion. Maybe this isn't about the Pope. Or the bishops. Or Rome at all. Maybe this is about us. Maybe it's about whether we will stop expecting the church to save us from change, and instead let it guide us through it. Different expressions of reverence. Different cultures, different centuries. But one spirit. And one church. Still breathing. Still walking. Still listening. The Catholic Church is not a monument. It's a mystery. And in this moment, that mystery is inviting us to believe, not just in doctrines, but in one another.